started Classics Month by watching for the first time what is regarded as one of the best movies of all time, Citizen Kane by Orson Welles. Citizen Kane starts with some beautiful shots of the mansion Xanadu, and inside we see an elderly Charles Foster Kane, played by Orson Welles himself, as he utters his final word, Rosebud. Kane's death becomes widespread news, and the rest of the film follows reporter Jerry Thompson, interviewing various people from Kane's life, trying to find the meaning behind the word Rosebud. From here, we see various flashbacks, as we too try to piece together the life of Charles Foster Kane. I thought this film was really good, obviously, but maybe not the greatest film ever, as it's often regarded as. Despite that, it really is a great watch, with truly inventive camera work for the time, which makes it all the more impressive when I found out that Orson Welles was only 25 during the making of this film, that he not only directed, but starred in the main role as. A true classic in every sense of the word. Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, is directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it's about an American war general who goes rogue and orders a nuclear strike on Russia. Meanwhile, the US president and the rest of his war room try to communicate with the Russian president and the plane holding the bomb in order to stop nuclear warfare. A comedy about the absurdity of war in the midst of the Cold War by one of the greatest directors of all time. Of course it was great. The performances especially were amazing, made even more amazing when I found out after I had finished the movie that 3 of my favorite performances in the film were all played by the same guy, Peter Sellers. I didn't even notice when I was watching because I was so engrossed in the film and its performances. Also, it looks great, especially the shots within the war room. Breathless is a classic French New Wave film about a man who ends up murdering a police officer when he's almost caught for stealing a car. This sets off his journey of evading the law whilst trying to convince an American girl to run away to Italy with him. This film is just effortlessly cool, from the beautiful shots of Paris, to the costumes, to the music that is played throughout. All of this results in a great looking film that ended up being very influential for a lot of modern filmmakers. The film is unapologetically French, with a lot of smoking, love, and philosophical talk. All I can say is that she deserves better, because this guy is a bit of a dick. Cassablanca is a 1942 Hollywood classic about the character Rick Blaine, who runs a nightclub in Cassablanca, where refugees gather during the midst of World War II. These people seek to obtain letters that will help them escape to America, but one night, Rick's former lover appears in the nightclub. This film was amazing, loved the acting in the film, and I loved how it looked, especially the lighting. All the close-up shots of Ingrid Bergman's character Ilsa were beautiful, and I also loved the spotlight from the watchtower whenever they stepped outside of the nightclub. It added a cool dynamic to those shots. The setting of the nightclub was great, and I loved the film's focus on music, and how a certain song can bring out emotions of a specific person or time. The story remained enticing throughout, and it became one of my favorites of the month. Some Like It Hot is a 1959 comedy directed by Billy Wilder about 2 musicians who accidentally stumble upon a murder. So to escape the mob that carried out the murder, they disguise themselves as women and join an all-female band. It's not my favorite Wilder work, but it was still enjoyable, carried out by some great performances from Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, and Marilyn Monroe, as well as some great dialogue, which is to be expected from a script penned by Billy Wilder. For being a comedy, however, I didn't find it all that funny, and the overall plot didn't really stick out to me. Looking back on it, it was a fun enough watch, just far from touching Billy Wilder's other works, such as Sunset Boulevard or The Apartment. The Big Heat by Fritz Lang is a 1953 noir classic about a detective who, after an apparent suicide of a fellow cop, he decides to take it into his own hands and look deeper into the case, there finding a world of crime and corruption. I ended up loving this a lot. I love a good revenge story, and this ended up ticking all the boxes. Really enjoyed the characters in this, and the plot had some really great moments that kept the story enticing throughout. The character Debbie Marsh, played by Gloria Graham, was especially great, with her character getting some pretty big moments in the film that really let her character shine. Top tier noir filmmaking right here. They don't make films that look like this anymore. North by Northwest by Alfred Hitchcock is the James Bond film before James Bond films. It follows our main character Roger Thornhill, who is mistaken for a spy. This triggers a cross-country chase where a mysterious organization aims to take him down. This film looks amazing, shot beautiful in Technicolor. The settings that Hitchcock chose for this movie just ooze style and look great. The scene with the plane and the last action scene in the film especially were top tier. I did start to think while watching the film that it might be maybe 20 minutes longer than it should have been, but that didn't subtract too much from me having a pretty fun time with this in the end. Les Samourai is a French film about a hired gun who has been sent out on a mission to kill a nightclub owner. On the way out, he is seen by multiple people. This leads to him being chased by not only the police, but by the men who hired him for the assassination. This is a cold film, made even more prominent by the use of bluish-grey colors being used throughout most of the film and marketing. The whole movie really does revolve around this man walking around with his collar up, trying to evade the law, and it was never not entertaining. I love how this film looks, and it's a very methodical style of filmmaking, where the director isn't constantly shoving things in your face. Moments get time to breathe, which makes for an entrancing watch. Blow Up is a 1966 film set in London about a photographer who, when out taking photos in the park, unknowingly captures a death on film. I didn't end up enjoying this as much as I thought I would. I drew an immediate comparison to Blow Out by Brian De Palma, which I loved, and was no doubt inspired by this film. The only difference being was that I really enjoyed Blow Out. It's not all bad. I must sound like a broken record at this point, but the film did look great, the shots in the park especially. It's just that as this film went on, I just became less and less interested in what was going on, to the point that it eventually just became a pretty looking image to have on in the background. It was nice to look at times, but I didn't end up feeling anything by the end. Charade, starring Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant, is about a woman who, upon her return to Paris, finds her husband dead and her apartment stripped bare. From there, her and her new American acquaintance must run from 3 men who knew her late husband, who are after $250,000 that happens to now be in her possession. This film has been titled the best Hitchcock movie that Hitchcock never made, and if he were to have made it, it definitely would have been one of his weaker ones. I thought it was alright for what it was. Audrey Hepburn was great, and now I want to watch more of her movies. The mystery thriller aspect was good, the comedy was hit or miss for me, and the romance in the film didn't really find romantic. Despite this, I still had an alright time with it. Can't go wrong with that Technicolor filmmaking, it looked great. Peeping Tom is a 1960 thriller directed by Michael Powell, following our main character Mike, who, due to various childhood traumas, has grown an attachment to his camera, which he uses to film his murders, specifically the fear on his victims' faces. Apparently this film was met with harsh criticism on its release, due to its subject matter, but I'm glad it has since been re-evaluated, because I thought this was great. It's basically a progenitor of the slasher genre that would soon dominate the film industry in the 70s and 80s. The colors in this film really pop. The sets and the way that this film was shot really does make it a visually stunning film. The characters were also great, as well as the overall plot being enticing and intriguing throughout. This was another favorite from this month.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris.